There are some tools that strike fear even into the most die-hard Photoshop user. And this is one of them, the channel mixer. It's the one that your Photoshop teachers always said, don't play with that one. Well, today we're going to start to unravel it because it's a very useful tool. I think I started using Photoshop professionally in 1994, I think. And back then, Photoshop was much simpler. And by that, I don't mean that it was super simple to use or anything like that. I just mean that the tool set was much smaller. So even though we were trying to do a lot of the same things that we do now, we had fewer options and fewer things to learn, really. And so we had to kind of take the long way around. Everything was based on channels, and took me the longest time to figure out what an alpha channel is, which is what we think of now as a mask. And so I learned how to use a lot of the things in Photoshop that no one ever uses anymore. Things like calculation and apply image, which are things that you use every day. You just don't know it because they're buried in other commands, and Photoshop has made that part of the process invisible to you. But the channel mixer was always a different deal. It almost seemed like Adobe didn't really want you to use the channel mixer because they made it so difficult. It wasn't like there were any safeties built in. You had to really pay attention to what the numbers were. And it seemed like it was kind of a hit or miss thing. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And so I left it alone for the longest time. And it wasn't until I started building color lookup tables that I really realized what a valuable tool a channel mixer really is. Now, that said, the channel mixer in Photoshop is not the easiest thing to use. It's not user-friendly. But if you understand a few things about it, it can be a really valuable tool, and it can save you a lot of work, and it can really help you preserve the quality in your photograph, especially if you're trying to make some crazy color adjustments, because it's all math. You're not pushing pixels around. So we're going to dig into the channel mixer a little bit, and hopefully after this you'll begin to get an understanding of how it works, and at least you won't be afraid to use it because it can be very valuable. So how I came to make this video today is that I've been engineering some black and white lookup tables, and I've got 5 of them here. And usually the way we use these things is you just, you test them out. Well, I like that one, and well, that one is pretty similar to the last one, and oh, that one's a little too dark, and that one's a little too light, and that one's too high contrast. I don't like that one. And my original intention here was to show you how to mix and match these, which you can do. And I do it all the time. You like maybe the foreground from this one, and maybe you like the background from that one. And so you make a mask and you paint it in, and you've got a good conversion, right? And so we all probably do that. But let's take a look at the architecture of one of these black and white conversion LUTs and what they're really like. So there's really a couple of different parts, really 3 different parts. There's the channel mix part where you're mixing the red, green, and blue channels in different proportions to get a different tonal mix. There's the contrast part, and then there's the removal of the color. And I thought, why not break these things out into their components so that we can play with each one of them individually? And so that's what I've done here. I got 5 of them here, and you can download these by using either the link below or the link in the email that you got if you got an email about this video. And so let's just take a look at this particular conversion. So this is a conversion based on Agfa APX25, which is a classic black and white film. And when I'm building these, you have to be very precise about all the different components of these so that they're accurate. So this is the entire conversion. So this is the whole thing. The color's removed, the channel mix is correct, the contrast curve is correct. This is just the contrast curve. This is the channel mix all by itself. And so you can see how different this is. It's a little darker, the reds are darker, but look at the sky. Watch up here. The sky hardly changes at all. And so by putting these both together, now I have the channel mix set to the luminosity blend mode so that the color stays in the photograph here. If I change this to normal, it's going to get black and white because this LUT, this is a LUT here, contains the color removal as well. But here's the contrast curve. So these two parts here make up this. It's the same thing. What I thought was, wouldn't it be cool if we could just take the contrast curve from one kind of film and combine it with the channel mix from another kind of film? Maybe I like the contrast curve in one, but I don't like the channel mix. So we could take a look at that here. Now, I've got a lot of these channel mixes set to the luminosity blend mode. This one's in normal, and that was so that the color would stay. So let's just expand these. And so there's a channel mix from the AGFA. That's the channel mix from the Kodak 125. This is the Ilford Pan F+. This is the Kodak Technical Pan. And let's turn the black and white part off there and change this to normal. So much flatter than, say, this, and lighter too. And then if I go down to here, this is the Raleigh. So I think I'm pretty sure this is an infrared film. And so this is darker, right? So maybe I like, say, this particular channel mix, but I like the Raleigh contrast, or I like the contrast from this one, which is the Kodak. Well, I can do that if I have this broken out. And so that's why I'm giving these to you like this. And so that's a pretty good starting point for black and white, really. So you're probably thinking, well, those channel mixes all look really similar, and they do. And it's because of the image, really. So I've got a test chart down here. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to put these back in color. So let's turn this on and put this into the luminosity blend mode. I'm going to go down and just change all of these really quick. And the reason I'm putting them in luminosity again is so it's just the brightness that's affected. It's not the color. That's not going to strip the color out. And so remember that, because when you're going to play with these, this is going to be a big thing, but you'll see in a little bit. So if I collapse these now, like so, and I'll just turn them off. So here's the AGFA. Now this has all of the colors in it. It's got a 100% saturated color wheel, 50% saturated color wheel, and then some different gradients, color gradients, so that you can see what's going on here. So you can see that this gets darker, and there's some change in the blue, some change in the green, not a whole lot of change in the red, but some. So this is completely different. This makes things much lighter. And this is the Kodak Plus X 125. And if you watch, this strip down here in particular, because you've got all your information here. You got red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow, and black, and you've got a black to white gradient going back and forth. You can really see what's happening here. And you can see that these are all quite different, and they're going to have a different effect depending on, of course, the image that you're using. So I want to show you some of that. And I've got some examples down here. So I want to turn this off, and we're just going to turn this on. And we're not going to talk too much about the contrast curves today. I'm really more interested in the channel mixer. And so what I've done is I've made a stamp of this image with each of the channel mixes applied to it. So let's just turn all these on, and then we're going to turn this off. So this is the original. That's this photo right here. And if I turn this on, at the top of the layer stack, we see the AGFA APX25. So original and the AGFA. So if I turn this off, then we've got the Kodak. So this is obviously quite different. And there's the original. And this is the Ilford. And here's the original. And this is the Kodak Technical Pan, which is one of my favorites. And there's the original. And I also love this one. So you can see what's happening here. The contrast between these colors gets different depending on what's going on in the channel mix. And even the quality of her skin changes. So for example, here's the original, and you can see that this is really contrasty. This one really lightens the skin. And you can pay attention to what's happening in the eyes. The eyes are kind of neutral, so there's not a lot going on here. So let's turn this one off and look at the next one. So this one has lots of different colors in it, lots of different luminosity levels, and I thought this would be a really good one to look at. So here's the original. Might help if I turned it on. There we go. That's the original. And so here's the Kodak. And notice this red gets really deep and these other colors get much more saturated, especially the reds and the yellows and this pink dress over here. On the other side, there's not a whole lot going on over here. So this is the 125, and you can see that the saturation of everything has really dropped quite a bit, especially in the reds, right? And this is the Ilford. So this is a subtle difference in this image. There's not much difference at all. It's mainly the amount of blue that's in here, and it's the depth of the blue. But you'll notice that her red dress doesn't change very much. Watch her lips, though. This is the Ilford, if we turn this off. So here is the Kodak technical pan. And this is the original. And one of the reasons that I love this particular conversion is that it kind of evens everything out and then allows me to play with the luminosity of the different colors individually later. And this is the Raleigh, which I also love because of its strength. Okay, let's turn this one off. Take a look at the next one. Turn all these on. And here's the original and the Kodak. And we can move a little quicker now since you know what's going on here. So you get a little more separation here now between the scarf here and the background. Not much difference in the background, a little bit. It's a little lighter, but the scarf really changes a lot. And now we get that deeper color again as we go into the Raleigh. So this is a great way to really start to understand what's happening with these films and why these conversions work the way they do. So this is a good one because here's the original. And here is the Kodak. And you can see how much more intense these colors are, which is something Kodak was famous for, right? And look at that red almost starts to get a little orangey. And again, this one, very subtle difference. But look at that. And there's our Ilford again, which just kills the reds, right? Awesome. All right. And this one here. So this will be an interesting one because you've got red and cyan, red and blue, which are opposite colors on the color wheel. So the way that these channels mix is going to be really interesting. So there's the original right there, and that's the Kodak. This starts to get almost pink. And so this is where a couple of these were really subtle, but you can see in the blues, there's quite a difference. Look at that one. And you always know that the Raleigh's going to come back at the end and be just muscular. Whoops. All right, so let's take a look at this last one here. And scroll that down. There we go. So here's the original. And this has a pretty full representation of most of the colors that we would see in a landscape. So we've got some reds and we've got some greens. There's some yellow in here, quite a bit of it. And then you've got this interesting kind of blue here. And then there's some dark blues down here. So we should see some interesting things happening here. And so you can see that gets more intense. And so look at that. And so here's the original. And look how these flowers just get pink here. And there's not really that much change in the blues, but look what happens to her skin. It just gets pale here. And so if you've never shot film, this is why photographers would get so picky about the kind of film that they use, because all these films have different characteristics. And when you get into color, it's even greater. And so there's our friend, the Raleigh, which is that high contrast black and white. So you wouldn't see this normally because, of course, Raleigh is a black and white film. And so you're not going to normally see what the color mix looks like. So let's go over to this one. And this is where the channel mixer comes in. And you can see that, you know, we got two colors here, red and blue. And so it's really obvious what's happening here, right? Both of them are lightened. Only the red one is darkened. Both are lightened here as well. And these are kind of similar, but now you can see the difference between these, especially in the blue shoe there. Quite a bit of difference. That's almost orange now, that red shoe. And then you know what's going to happen here. That red's going to get really bam. Look at that. But look how it lightened the blue shoe. Not something that you would have seen before. So red shoe gets really red. Blue shoe starts to move towards the lavenderish side. Very interesting, right? All right. So if we look at the channels palette, we can actually see a representation of the RGB channel and black and white representations of the color channels. What this tells me is because this part of this grayscale image here is lighter than this part, it tells me that I have more of this channel, which is the red channel in this case, present in this shoe than there is in this shoe. If we look at the green channel here, they're almost identical. So the green channel is equally present in both shoes. The blue channel is, as you would expect, more present in the blue shoe than it is in the red shoe. It's hardly present at all in the red shoe. And the white background is equally present everywhere. Now, this comes in really handy, this little channel analysis here. And here's why. If I take a channel mixer, the dreaded channel mixer, if I just start messing around with this now, you know, I don't really know what I'm going to get here. And you can fool around till you get something that you like. But if this number here goes over 100, it should be exactly 100 actually. Then you get this little warning sign here and your computer's going to blow up. So warning, total greater than 100. Oh no. And it's not like you can click on it and it's going to make an adjustment. And this doesn't really help you because this controls the level of grayscale, is the way Adobe describes it, in whatever channel that you're in. So in this case, it's the red channel. So if I move this to the right, it's going to get more red. If I move it to the left, what do you think is going to happen? What's the opposite of red? Cyan. So if I reset this and I move to the green channel rather, if I move it to the right, it's going to get more green. If I move it to the left, it's going to get more magenta. So remember those opposite colors that we've talked about before. And you can probably tell what's going to happen in the blue channel. If I go to the blue channel, right's going to get blue and yellow to the left, okay? So you can do color changes in here, and you can see that I can get my shoe pink, but now I'm at 149, and that means that my highlights are getting kind of funky. And, you know, just pulling this back doesn't help me because I'm just going to add some yellow to my image, and I don't want that. So I double click on the word here and it'll go back. So then I got to try to, I like those colors. Then I got to try to figure out a mix that will get me to 100, but the color keeps changing. And, you know, this is why I gave up on the channel mixer. But there's a better way to look at this, especially when you're looking at it from the point of view of doing black and white work, because we're concerned with the way the channels are mixed together. We're not concerned with the way each color is mixed in each particular channel. I know that probably sounds confusing, but just kind of bear with me here. So if I change the blend mode of this to luminosity, okay, and then I click the monochrome box, I get a black and white conversion. I know it's a black and white conversion because if I change this back to normal, it's going to be black and white, right? So now I don't have 3 channels anymore. I only have 1. And this is the mix that they give us that's based on, not really sure what this is based on. We're more sensitive to green light than we are anything else. So usually the green number will be up at 60 and then red and then blue. But the constant also changes. But don't think of this as a fail-safe. You get more white if you go to the right. You get more black if you go to the left. But it's not going to correct anything if you're blown out. It changes the grayscale value. It's a gamma slider, really, is what it is. So you can see that the photo's gotten a little brighter. But if I start to manipulate these sliders now I can change the relationships of the channels, okay? So let's reset this and let's look at this in an analytical kind of way. So I know that I've got a lot of red in the red channel because the red shoe is bright in the red channel. I know that the green channel is equal, and I know I've got more blue in the blue channel. So if I want to make my red deeper, I can go to my channel mixer and I can pull the red back and make it darker. Now, if I pull the blue up, my blue is going to get brighter. Maybe I don't want my blue to get brighter. Remember that in my, I'm just going to reset this for a second. Okay, so we pull that back. So remember that the green channel contains both things equally. So I can just pull the green channel up a little bit and compensate that way. Now, this number here is not exactly 100. And I've done this and I've gone over 100 and it's been okay sometimes and sometimes it's not. So it's handy to keep an eye on your histogram in the RGB mode there. And it's also, this is a big highlight here, which is the background probably. And then you just kind of rely on your eyes. So if I reset this again, if I want the blue shoe to get darker, well, I could make the blue shoe darker and just bring up my green to offset for that. Maybe I want them both to be darker. I can do that. Okay. And now I'm going to start looking to be at 100 here because I want my white background to stay white. And look at that. So can you do this with a hue-sat adjustment layer or something like that? Yes. But if you spend some time playing with this, there are things that you can do here that you can't do anywhere else. Trust me. Let's look at a different one. All right, I'm going to reset this. So we've got these peppers here. And the way to do this is to take a look at the channels and see what we've got. So we got a red, a green, and a yellow pepper here. And if I click on the red channel, I can see that there's a lot of the red channel in both the red pepper and the yellow pepper, which makes sense because we know that yellow has red in it. The green pepper, not so much. It's really dark here, doesn't have a lot of the red channel in it. If I click on the green channel, I can see that, well, there's a little bit of green in the yellow pepper. There's lots of green in the green pepper, and there's also some green in the red pepper. But in the blue channel, there's not much of anything in any of these peppers because there's no blue really in any of these colors. So I can really change the way this looks by mixing these two channels together that have a great difference. And then this channel here, which doesn't have much difference, I can use this as kind of the equalizer. So let's go back to my RGB channel. By the way, when you're navigating these, don't click on the eyeballs, because if you click on the eyeballs, then you're going to get in trouble. So what you want to do is, click on this part here. So if you click on the RGB channel, then all of the other ones are going to be highlighted as well. And then you can click on any of these. And then to go back, you just click on the RGB channel. But if you start messing with the eyeballs, you're going to get in trouble. Then your computer might blow up. Okay, so let's go back to the channel mixer here now. Now I know that the red pepper's in my red channel, right? And there's some yellow in there too. So I'm going to click monochrome, make sure this is going to black and white, and I'm still in luminosity blend mode up here. And if I pull my red channel down, the red's going to get darker. If I pull the green channel up, then you can see what's happening to that yellow pepper. And I can equalize that stuff with the blue channel And this is what I end up with. Okay. So there's, a bunch of different permutations you could do here. So I could make my green channel darker. Oh, let's make it brighter. And pull my red channel back, and then pull my blue channel back to equalize that. And I get this. Now I've just really affected the red pepper. And let's try one different one. So if I pull the green channel back and push the blue channel forward to make it a little brighter, then I've darkened the green pepper and the yellow pepper. Why have I darkened them? Because I've brought the blue channel forward, and what's in the blue channel? Not very much, right? Not very much at all. Okay. So let's look at an example that's a little more sophisticated, something that you might run across in your everyday life here. So you've taken a picture of these leaves. I'm going to make this easier just to bring this down here. You've taken a picture of these leaves, and you've got this really nice photograph, and it's got lots of colors in it. And you want to, play around with it a little bit. So let's look at this. So here's our RGB channel. This is our red channel. And you can see that the inner part of these leaves particularly is very present in this channel, and so is the background. In the green channel, not so much. The inner part is much more restricted and not so much green in the background. And in the blue channel, everything's kind of dark. So we have kind of the same situation here that we had with the peppers, where we had not a lot of information in the blue channel, but much different information in the red channel and the green channel. And so that means that we can turn this on and change this to monochrome, make sure that we're in luminosity blend mode. I'm just going to reset here. And now I can start to play around. So if I want to make my reds deeper or darker, I'm going to pull my red channel back, and I'll push my blue channel forward and turn this on and off. And look at that. I can go the other way, and maybe I want to make my greens darker and make the reds brighter. There you go. So you can change the focus really of your photo here, right? Look at that. Now notice I'm at 141 here. I don't see anything in my photo that's blown out. Do you? I've got something. Might be this, whoops. What could that be? It's probably this stuff up here. So you do have to be careful. And I might just mask that back in or paint it in with the original layer or something, because I really like what's going on here. I love this bowl of strawberries. And I'm going to reset this. Make sure that's in monochrome. And we'll look at our channels really fast. Obviously, lots of red in the red channel. Not very much in the green channel. The background, and the blue channel has the background and not very much of anything else at all. If I want to make my strawberries more vibrant, I can just pull these back until that red gets nice and dark and rich. And if I push this too far forward, remember this was all that was in here. So I might be better off balancing that with the green a little bit and then pushing this forward a bit, or maybe just backing that off and letting the green do the talking for us. Look at that. The other thing to notice here, if I zoom in here, you don't see any saturation junk in here. Now this is a JPEG, so you might see some funky edges here, but you don't see any of the artifacts that you get when you oversaturate things. And that's because we're not saturating anything. We're just mixing the channels in a different way. And so that's one of the advantages of using this tool, is that you don't run into those problems. If I tried to do this with a hue sat adjustment layer, I run into the risk of, getting all those saturation artifacts, and then it saturates everything else too. So, but the edges of things aren't going to break down on you. If you break down here, it's the whole photograph that's going to break down because you took it too far. All right. So I couldn't pass up this photo. I just love it so much. It's there. It's so awesome because, you know, I like cats. So this is really interesting actually because you've got a lot of green and yellow here going on here. But then look at their eyes. Their eyes are so awesome. They have this blue color to them. So if we look at the RGB channel here, might help if I was parked on the right thing. So here's our red channel. And so we can see that the cats themselves and these flowers and are present in the red channel. And the green channel's got a lot of everything because lots of green grass and yellow and not much in the blue channel, but look at their eyes. Their eyes really light up. So we can play with that. And so if I turn this on now and make sure that I'm monochrome and I am reset, so I can now make my greens darker, say, and maybe we'll make my reds a little brighter, but let's really bring up those blues. And you just kind of balance this out. And I got a nasty highlight here. So I'm going to have to back those blues off a little bit. And we just changed the whole focus of the photo, right? And so I could really bring this up. Now, if I bring that up, I'm really going to have to dial this stuff back. But that might not be a bad thing. And so playing with these, and that's not to say that, you know, you don't have to use the whole photo. Maybe I just want the cats this way and I'm just going to mask them in or paint it in with a paintbrush. So the options are really endless here. So let's reset this before we go to the next photo. Bink. And now we're going to look at my favorite place, the beach. A quick channel analysis will tell us something that we probably already know, that in the red channel, the stripes for the umbrella are quite present, and the beach and so forth, and this exposed rock over here. In the green channel, there's quite a bit of this foreground here because as we can see here, that's very green. And then, of course, the sky and the rest of the photo in the blue channel. So this provides us with a different kind of opportunity. Now I can make my red channel quite a bit darker. And I can bring up my, actually, let's bring up the green channel and let that speak for us. So I'm going to really let that, push that out front like that. And we'll bring out a little more blue, not too much. And so we've kind of balanced that off, but we've really made the umbrella pop. Now, if I want to go the other way with it, let's say I want the umbrella to get lighter, but I want the green to be darker maybe, and we'll push that blue forward. And you can see that this is starting to fall apart now. So you have to be careful. Okay. And one more. This was actually the first image I picked for this because I thought it was a perfect example, and it really is a good one. So we've got this bucket o' berries, and I picked this image because it's got a lot of the right colors in it that'll enable us to see this really easily. And it's kind of just a dead photo. It's just sitting there. It has no life to it. Everything's really super flat. So my channels palette tells me that I have a lot of information, of course, regarding the strawberries and some of this background stuff in the red channel. And the green channel contains the bucket and some of these other things, not much of the berries. And the blue channel is all about the bucket and the sky. And the berries aren't in there at all. So my instinct here is to make the berries a much richer red and to push the bucket forward and create color contrast between this red and this cyan, since they are opposite colors. How about that? So I hope you won't be so afraid of the channel mixer, because the channel mixer is an awesome piece of machinery. And so if we go back to the other one here, the way to play with these is to, let's turn this on. So this is our contrast for this particular film. This is the channel mix for this particular film. And if you want this to be black and white now, you have to change the blend mode here. Make sure that this is in normal. And now you're going to get a black and white conversion. Okay. If you want to see what the channel mix is, change it to luminosity and it will show you the colors that are present here. Now, the way to play with a channel mixer in conjunction with this is to just take one and put it in between those two layers. And then you can substitute this for this channel mix. I suppose you could probably use them in conjunction, but why would you want to do that? I would just turn this one off and then make sure that you go to monochrome. And you're going to want to make sure that your channel mixer is initially, at least, in luminosity mode. And then you can play around with these and see what you can come up with. Like so. Or whatever it is that you want. When you're ready to go to black and white, if you want to go to black and white with this, just take this and change the blend mode to normal, and you're going to be in black and white. So this is just scratching the surface of this tool. Once you get into working with color with this thing, it's a whole new ballgame. I will say that there are other pieces of software out there that have channel mixers that are much easier to work with. And I'm going to be showing you some of that because we're going to be talking about color grading and a lot of the other things that I've been working on. But that doesn't diminish the power of this tool. Just be cautious when you use it and really pay attention to what you're doing. All right, so I hope you found this helpful. I'll see you in the next one.